all of a sudden, Democratic leadership has become aware of Hasan Piker.
The media's like, maybe Hasan Piker is the new Joe Rogan of the left.
Yeah.
Remember, they kind of like crowned him with that status, and now they're pretending like, well, we don't know anything about him.
Well, all the energy is with this like crazy ass anti-Semite, but I guess he's getting people to get involved. So let him run amok. General election hits, and they're like, who?
Washington politicians are always getting in your wallet. Now they're messing with your credit card. Your credit card and the security it offers are under attack. The Durbin-Marshall credit card bill would change the nation's payment system to benefit corporate megastores like Walmart and Target at the expense of everyday Americans. Credit cards keep your payments secure and provide rewards that families use to help make everyday purchases more affordable. The Durbin-Marshall mandates would let corporate megastores cut corners on credit card processing, routing transactions over cheaper, untested networks with weaker security and fewer protections. That means higher risk of fraud, greater chance of stolen personal data, and the loss of rewards programs, just so corporate megastores can pocket billions of dollars in higher profits. Tell Congress to guard your card. Visit guardyourcard.com to take action and learn more.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
This program has become one of the most influential podcasts in America.
I love the personality. You guys are killing it. I just saw you're number one. So congratulations.
It's an honor and a pleasure to welcome the great Sean Hannity.
Guys, I love you. Congratulations on all your success.
This is why you listen to the Ruthless podcast, because nobody else would ask that question. The only political podcast worth listening to is the Ruthless podcast.
It's time for our main event.
The Ruthless Podcast.
Good Thursday to you. Welcome back to the Ruthless Variety program. We must be getting close to general election season because Democrats are trying to become something that they're not. I'm Josh Holmes along with comfortably Smug and John Ashbrook, Michael Duncan on assignment this week. Fellas, I don't know if you guys have noticed. All of a sudden, Democratic leadership has become aware of Hasan Piker.
Oh, yeah. They definitely didn't know about him until like just now.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just
he's not been out campaigning with all their candidates.
just now figuring out who this guy is.
Yeah.
You know, it's an internet thing just bubbling up. Yeah. They just happen to be noticing.
Hey, my word searches just turned up this unusual character. Turns out he's an anti-Semite. I can't believe it. So you, for longtime listeners, we're repeating ourselves. I mean, part of what we talk about here on the Ruthless Variety program is Democrats' reinvention of themselves to suit the political moment. In recent years, we've called it the Abby Spanberger routine, which is you present to voters what you think is most likely to get you across the finish line, and then you become the psychopath everybody knew you were. When you're in office.
Yep.
But there's a 3-part episode when it comes to primaries this cycle. Usually they just overwhelm them and kick basically the minority candidate out of all. That's what they've done.
Schumer's been doing that for
It worked in
years.
Texas. Yeah, the whole Schumer play.
Yeah. They couldn't get away with that for all the things we've talked about, 16, 20, 24, and this pent-up anxiety that the primary electorate and Democrat Party has had, and so they've kind of overwhelmed the system in a lot of ways. So all their candidates end up showing up with this character, Hasan Piker, who is probably the most objectionable person in politics. I was asked, one of the hosts on Fox this morning was like, is there an analog to this cat? Like, did you guys ever deal with anybody who is just super objectionable that like appeared with candidates? And I was thinking about it, and it's like, there's names like David Duke that surface who like try to align themselves with the Republican Party, but like no Republican would ever be seen with them.
Yeah.
Right.
Primary or otherwise, would never be seen.
Every Republican was like, David who? We never heard. Even in the prime, to your point, it's not like they were playing footsie with the guy to like get a certain subset of the electorate on their side before they changed traffic
Yeah.
in the general election.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing with this guy, Piker.
That's what they're doing. And so I was thinking about it, and I was like, I mean, there was plenty of people who were like hard right that Democrats tried to make a pariah. But with the benefit of retrospect on a lot of it, it seems quaint. Like they tried to do it to Rush.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, like, oh my gosh, this person knows Rush Limbaugh. And listen to what Rush had to say about that. It's objectionable. It's unbelievable. Like, what a quaint little exercise that is in retrospect.
And then also the reason it is completely different here is not only the level of how extreme and out of his mind and horrific the views and statements from Hasan are. The Democrats have been just straight up campaigning with, like, it's not like he has a show and he says, hey, I think Mamdani is who you should vote for. He's at the Mamdani rally and Mamdani's high-fiving him, being like, yeah, this is what we got going on. He's been out there in Michigan. He's been going state to state campaigning with Democrats who've won the primary. You don't have anything close to that ever in the history of Republican politics.
And at a baseline, I was like, okay, maybe you can find one or two people who are, had over-indexed on their power of persuasion in an individual cycle that became a liability for Republicans or whatever. But at a baseline, they may have been offensive at some level to some people, but they liked America. Mm-hmm. Like they believed in our country, and everything that they were talking about at some level was their view of how to improve the standing of your average American. Mm-hmm. This guy doesn't like our country.
Right.
He doesn't like anything about us. Doesn't like the founding, doesn't like the Constitution, doesn't like, Judeo-Christian principles, doesn't like capitalism. There's like basically nothing.
Right.
And they have aligned themselves on a state-by-state basis. You talked about Michigan, El-Sayed, and we're going to get into this in a minute. This guy on the eve of the election threw a pool party. He's the Democrat Senate nominee in a swing state that they haven't lost since 1994, Democrats. And on the eve of his primary election, he throws a pool party with Hasan Piker. Like, don't tell me this guy isn't ingrained in the thread that makes up the Democrat Party. That is a must-win state, a always-win state for Democrats. And he is now a part of the establishment of the Democratic Party.
Yes.
Remember where Democrats started this cycle on the heels of Kamala Harris getting her ass kicked? Every single Democrat was like, well, when are liberals going to find their Joe Rogan? Right? Yeah. That was the conversation a year and a half ago.
That's a great point.
And they completely blew past the fact that Joe Rogan is their Joe Rogan. He was a liberal and he completely changed his thinking, or didn't change his thinking. He's just like, the Democrats kind of left
Dems
where
moved.
I was. And they're like, oh, well, the media's like, maybe Hasan Piker is the new Joe Rogan of the left.
Yeah.
Remember, they kind of like crowned him with that status. And now they're pretending like, well, we don't know anything about him because we're just a month, two and a half months.
So all of this comes up, of course, because you're reading a lot about and seeing a lot about Hasan Piker because Democrats have all of a sudden decided, well, we're going to distance ourselves from this guy. We're going to put out performative statements that try to distance ourselves from him, his commentary, and whatever. Why? Why would they do that? You went through, 9 months of campaigning in a primary electorate where they were quiet as church mice. You didn't hear a word. Did Chuck Schumer say? No, he didn't say anything. It was happening in his own backyard. Remember, the first part of the Hasan Piker takeover of the Democrat Party was in New York. Did he say anything? No, not a word. How about Hakeem Jeffries? Also a New Yorker. Happened to his friends in districts his district is adjacent to. A full takeover. The mayor of his home city. All of that stuff. Did he say anything? Nope. Not a word. Because they were in primary season. Can't offend him during primary season. He's providing the energy for all of our candidates.
That's the thing.
And so they said nothing. And in the moment that primary season ends, all of a sudden, they look around and they realize you got a pretty good political environment. You've got money. You got the ability to go win majorities in the House and the Senate. We got one big problem is that we let this dog off the leash and we didn't say anything for a long time. So now is the time that we tell the American public, we don't really know who this guy is. He doesn't represent our values.
That's the thing. This is the whole play is they're like, well, all the energy is with this like crazy ass anti-Semite, but I guess he's getting people to get involved. So let him run amok. General election hits and they're like, who? We don't know that guy.
Oh,
who?
he's
Him?
offensive.
And the fact is they let this insane kind of anti-Semite, third worlderism, anti-American shit take such grip on their party writ large. It used to be like, oh, this is just a Dearborn problem. Like, oh, no, it's just dealing with the squad. Now it's the party. They're trying to be like, no. The party is fine. It's this one guy. This one guy we don't know him. We have nothing to do with him. Blame that guy. Dude, all your candidates and your grassroots, by the way, are completely insane.
Well,
now.
and I think the grassroots point is worth highlighting in that they are choosing Hasan Piker this week to attack and distance themselves from, because in the context of a general election, it's not a doable thing. In most of the day, in order to get to a majority, this is something that most Americans can't abide. The problem is the base of their party is that.
Yes.
It's that.
They're trying to just scapegoat one guy when this is what your party's become.
You have allowed this to be built. We've talked a lot about the void of leadership in the Democrat Party, that there has never been a moment where any of them stop and say, maybe, just maybe, we should defend America as an institution. Maybe we should defend our economic principles that have raised more people out of poverty than all of communism, socialism, and Marxism combined in the history of the world. Maybe we should speak to that. They didn't. They never did. Quiet as church mouse for all of it. But now that they're in a general election, we have an image problem. Turns out our party is like 18% approval rating because the vast majority of people who see what it is that these candidates and Hasan Piker are talking about are like, holy shit, this person's a maniac. We hate, and I'm just speaking generally, we hate what the Trump administration and Republicans are doing. We don't feel good about the economy. We don't like the Iran war. We don't like gas prices. We don't like all these things. We're willing to give you a shot. And then they look over across the aisle and they're like, wow, I can't do that. So Democrats now are saying, okay, well, we got to reform our pitch here a little bit. We can't have an Islamic extremist front on the 25th anniversary of 9/11. So we got to distance ourselves from this guy a little bit. And so you see a whole bunch of things. And they've now used just the recent commentary.
Yes. To act like it's a new thing.
That they're going to jump off and be like, now is the time that we all put out statements. And it's very funny when you contrast it with what he has said throughout the entirety of this campaign and what they were quiet as a church mouse about. So this is the latest clip that kicked it off. Clip 1.
Because people don't fuck with Israel any longer. And if Jews in America keep putting this idea out there that they are singularly invested in Israel, eventually someone's going to come around and take action, not against the state of Israel, mind you, but against American Jews. Okay?
This is on Twitch,
We're teaching
by the
people
way.
the wrong lesson. I don't know how people don't recognize how dangerous this predicament is, how dangerous this is for Jews. You're running around basically tying your entire identity to a country that inevitably will be seen as basically Jewish ISIS. And you're saying, as Jews, this is all we care about. You're making anti-Semitism worse.
Dude.
So just the upshot there. Jews are making it worse for Jewish people by being Jewish, essentially.
That's the take.
That's the take.
And it's being put out there on Twitch, owned by Amazon, by the way. And they've got a problem because the Twitch CEO is essentially, it has been outed as like a fan of Hasan and has allowed him
Get
to
out of here.
Yeah, Clancy's been outed as like
He's a fan?
and he's like a leftist and
What? That's not. But
that's the thing is like he's allowed this guy to like be off the leash and doing this shit and has enabled a lot of. There's like an ecosystem of these like Islamist, anti-Semite people on Twitch that he's kind of like turned a blind eye to and allowed to operate. And like,
well, maybe we'll come back. But to your point, we have a graphic on that in graphic 3 where the Twitch log.
This is what people are saying. Like for folks on YouTube who saw us while we're playing that clip of Hasan streaming on Twitch, they have a live chat that's going on. And like, we've got a graphic of like, this is what that chat looks like. You've got one guy being like, if America deserved 9/11, Israel deserved October 7th. Another guy says Israel's the occupier. So those hostages deaths, 100% on Israel. Like, geez, like this is, I mean, you can see that on your screen.
Zionist equals Nazi Zionist equals Nazi Zionist equals Nazi Zionist equals Nazi.
Yeah. It's like it's unhinged.
Imagine the mind trap that gets you to tweet something like that. But this is our larger point, is that they've allowed this to fester within the party of the Democratic Party and not speaking to any of it as it grew, right? I mean, the American electorate, I hate to say it, but it is pretty adaptable and it does respond to leadership. And what's happened within the Democratic Party is this absence of leadership has allowed somebody like Hasan Piker and his perverted view of America to fester within a very active online left that has now adopted anti-Semitism as a calling card for voting Democrat.
Right. In the absence of leadership on their side goes beyond, let me just put it this way. Kamala Harris loses, okay? None of them want to take blame for the fact that they nominated a complete idiot as their standard bearer for president on the heels of having an invalid in the White House. And they're all pointing fingers. It goes back to the Joe Rogan problem. What did we hear from the mainstream left-wing media over and over? Well, if Democrats had a Joe Rogan, then maybe Kamala would have won. It's just a messaging problem. It's not the fact that their candidate is a complete moron who has policies that nobody can relate to. And then they're like, okay, well, how do we respond to that? We need our own Joe Rogan. They deem this guy the left-wing Joe Rogan for the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Okay. And the history that you guys talked about, you just played all of the anti-Semitic clips. Remember also when he said America deserved 9/11, the person in the Twitch stream who said, well, if America deserved 9/11, Israel deserved October 7. Well, they're responding to something that he said.
Yes.
Great.
And when
great
he
point.
says we deserve 9/11, America deserved 9/11, it's like, what the hell is your problem?
Yes.
Thinking that like, oh, America is just something you search up on the internet and therefore people are upset with what they're finding on the internet. No even like recognition of the nearly 3,000 people who died on 9/11 in New York and in Northern Virginia at the Pentagon, and then all the guys who lost their lives thereafter in the global war on terror. No recognition of their lives at all, because their lives don't matter to a guy like him.
No.
All he thinks about is like, oh, well, America's just something you search up on the internet, and I'm gonna type this in. I'm gonna say my bullshit with my purple suit, and I'm gonna get a bunch of clicks and a bunch of Twitch stream comments and everything else.
He's going to get a bunch of money and he's going to get featured in like the New York Times, Esquire magazine. And they're going to be like, what an interesting young man.
Look
with
at
some
this.
new ideas. And they'll give him like a photo shoot.
Yeah.
It's pathetic and
Like
disgusting.
a fashion symbol. So it should be no surprise to Democrats that this was coming. And yet now they're like,
And that's another thing to be clear on is this is just during general election season because like, second week of November, they're going to be right back to being like, he's the best.
Well, yeah. So, and that's the Abby Spanberger routine.
Yep.
They
That's
are
it.
who you think they are.
Yep.
Because they'll tell you. But during general election season, they're going to pretend like there's something that they're not in all of these districts. And so now I find it so interesting, that horribly offensive thing that we played about how Jews deserve it because Jews are Jews. And if they weren't Jewish, it would be,
it's just insane.
It's insanity. But that was the jumping off point for criticism. Do you want to hear what he said over the last 9 months that they were quiet as church mice about? Clip 2.
if you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott. Okay? You wouldn't make Rick Scott, former governor of Florida, Rick Scott.
My understanding is that the property owners who have properties there choose just not to rent it at all.
Yeah, kill them. Kill those motherfuckers and murder those motherfuckers in the street. Let the streets soak in their fucking red capitalist bloods, dude.
I'm sick and tired of it. Left-wingers, liberals, you need to be fucking showing your opponent's guts on there, okay? You need to be gutting them. You need to be shanking these motherfuckers and letting their intestines just ride on stage. What the fuck is this shit, man? Slice them up. Slice them and fucking dice them. America deserved 9/11, dude. Jeez. Fuck it. I'm saying it.
That's what dude,
and also, like, just the other week being on stage, laughing and mocking the murder of Charlie Kirk, being like, this is funny and fun. Yeah. This is the guy who's now the tip of the spear for the Democrat Party.
But did they say anything about any of that?
Nope.
When the candidates that they are counting on to make up a majority in the House of Representatives, make up a majority in the United States Senate, to run the largest city in America, when they aligned themselves at the belt loop with this guy, at the time he was saying all of the things that we just played in the clip, what did they say?
Nothing. Yeah, the reality is they were playing footsie with him because they were like, well, there is a huge swath of our primary electorate that we do not want to offend because we think that they subscribe to what this guy says on a daily basis.
Yeah, and so now you find like that even the drunkest suburban wine mom sees something like that and is like, I'm not totally on board with that situation. And anybody who's in the center left, center right of the electorate that's going to make up the difference in majorities or minorities in November is extremely uncomfortable with that presentation. So what do? Cory Booker, Graphic One. He's got a lot to say about this cat. Hasan Piker's dangerous and hateful language targeting Jewish Americans has no place in our civic discourse, suggesting that Jewish Americans bear responsibility for hatred or violence directed against them is wrong, dangerous, or anti-Semitic. You know what's interesting about that? Is that he said far more anti-Semitic stuff when he was standing alongside a Senate candidate that you have endorsed and that you count on putting you in charge of Senate committees, Cory Booker, and you had fucking nothing to say about it. Absolutely nothing. And the only difference is the primary calendar ticked to 0.
Bingo.
And now we're in general election mode. So now you don't have to count on this psychopath to turn out your voters. You can try to pretend, because they're coming anyway, right? Because they hate Republicans, so they're just coming anyway. We have to try to convince some people on the center left and center right that we're not complete psychopaths. Right. So now I'm issuing a statement. Me, Cory Booker, standing up for truth. Yeah. Spartacus, you fuck. I mean, it's the most cynical shit, and it goes absolutely everywhere. Hakeem Jeffries. This is a fun clip. Even Wolf Blitzer takes this cat to task. Clip 3.
On another important issue, Leader Jeffries, you issued a statement yesterday slamming what you called the malicious claim that American Jews are inviting violence against themselves as, quote, dangerous and anti-Semitic. Was that in reference to far-left influencer Hasan Piker and his recent very controversial comments?
Yes, those comments were dangerous, malicious, and anti-Semitic, and should not be tolerated by anyone in the public square.
So why not call him out by name in your statement if you feel so passionately about this issue?
I've just addressed Hasan Piker's comments as it relates to the Jewish community as forcefully as I can, and I will continue to do that.
Yes, but in your original statement, he was not addressed by name. That's why I was raising the question. Leader Jeffries, you want to give me a final thought before I let you go? And we're grateful to you for joining us.
Well, there are 70 days until the midterm elections.
That's it right there.
There it is.
He didn't call him by name is because that's the guy who's actually in charge of the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
Hakeem Jeffries.
It's not Hakeem Jeffries, but he tells that himself right away. You know what I mean? It's like he usually has
Also,
a little
like-
bit more tact than that. You're like, oh, why don't you say his name? He's like, well, there's 70 days to a general election, and now I'm comfortable saying it.
Hakeem Jeffries is such a bitch. Of
It's so bad.
These candidates in New York City in Congress who won those primaries, defeating incumbents in New York in Jeffries' backyard. At their victory parties with like Hasan there, they're cheering. And when Hakeem Jeffries will be on the TV, they're chanting, "You're next." He is so scared of them.
Terrified.
That's why there's no leadership.
Because they're coming for him next.
Pathetic.
Because they allowed this bubble to completely expand. There was a vacuum of leadership of people being like, dude, you're American. What are we doing here? And so this impressionable group of young psychopaths all of a sudden thinks it's okay.
Because for Democrats, the specter of party leadership is so much more important than saying what's true about things in this country that are right and wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be so easy, like, to say, you know what, I happen to disagree with Hasan Piker on America deserved 9/11. Like, why the hell is it taken into? It's the most basic thing. And I don't understand why they couldn't just say that for the last 18 months, even though I get your point about the primary clock closing and now they're at a general. And I think you're exactly right. I think they're as cynical as we all assume. But that is a pretty basic thing. Like the shit that he says about Jews in this country. It's insanity. It's
Totally. But let me put
thing.
a very controversial but fine point on this. If you were to tell Hakeem Jeffries that by endorsing the statement word for word that Hasan Piker made about American Jews would give you the speaker's gavel, he'd fucking do it in a heartbeat.
100%.
Yeah, you're probably right.
You're not wrong,
He'd
dude.
do it in a heartbeat.
I agree.
As would Cory
pathetic.
Booker, as would the list of the rest of them. And there's a bunch of people in Michigan that have caught themselves in the crossfire on all this stuff. And like, I don't think that they're anti-Semitic, but they're Democrats and they have a huge constituency now and they don't know quite how to deal with it. Debbie Dingell is a pretty good example of this. Clip 4.
El-Sayed said in a statement that, quote, nobody speaks for this campaign besides me and my campaign spokespeople, end quote. And he accused politicians and pundits of trying to make this race about a Twitch streamer. Are you satisfied with how El-Sayed has handled this uproar?
Look, I'm going to say this to you. I'm tired of people trying to drag me into it. I strongly disagree with many of the things that Hasan Piker said, from Israel to, quite frankly, if you're a woman who has fought against sexual violence and domestic violence her whole life, what he has said about rape, etc., is simply inexcusable.
What? Okay. Why you got to bring all that up again? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Exactly
There's
right.
a dude who just so happens to be on like the cover of New York Times Magazine who's driving 2/3 of the interest in your party right now. He's the tip of the tongue in statements from your leadership across the board and just so happens to be really good friends with the guy that you nominated in your home state to be the United States Senate candidate in a seat that you haven't lost since 1994. Maybe that is something that you should think of. Why you drag me into it? It's your party. It's your party. You either can have leadership within your party, and you could have said during primary season, this guy, El-Sayed, is absolutely toxic because of his relationship with an absolutely toxic personality that happens to be grossly anti-Semitic and misogynist and everything else. You could have said it. There was an open race. There was 3 candidates. There was 3 different candidates to choose from, 2 of which were sort of mainstream Democrats. You ran them out on a wire and gave it to the Islamic extremists. And then now, 2 weeks afterwards, you're like, oh, Why you got to bring all
Why you gotta
that
bring
up?
that up?
Why you got to bring all that up?
Inconvenient for me in this conversation.
Yeah, I was just here to talk about transportation and roads and things. Fuck you. It's just incredible. All right, so it goes on. There are a few Democrats. There was one, Moskowitz or whatever in Florida that won last week, who's been pretty clear about this whole thing all along. And I'll give him credit. Like, if you have clarity on the Democratic side about what constitutes anti-Semitism and what doesn't, and you speak to it, I'll give you credit because it is not an easy place to live. One of those guys is this Josh Gottheimer guy who has been very, very clear, but he's got a lot more vocal now that you're in general election season. In graphic 2, he says the only one inciting violence against American Jews is Piker. And his rhetoric. For the future of the Democratic Party, Democrats have to call out the hate and condemn these dangerous views. Anyone campaigning with him is part of the problem. Of course, that's kind of a direct shot at a number of candidates, including a bunch of people who are going to be his colleagues next year in the House of Representatives, and El-Sayed in a seat that they absolutely have to win. But like, again, not naming it, but now much more vocal. Did Gottheimer at the primary say this?
That's the thing.
I didn't hear it. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it's just it wasn't published, or I think this guy has been very consistent about his views. So I don't want to say that he's in the Hakeem Jeffries totally convenient situation, but they're being amplified now by the Democratic Party. And to your point, the old adage, if it's helpful to the Democratic Party, well, now we're going to see it.
Right. That's why there's all of a sudden all these think pieces written about Hasan Piker in the mainstream press, just, randomly happening right now, 2.5 months before the election.
Randomly.
The mainstream media only attacks a Democrat when there's another Democrat who benefits.
It's in service to another Democrat. And you're going to see this. So look, I think our lesson here in this first segment, and there's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 Democrats who have come out over the last 24 hours with some kind of a statement against Hasan Piker. To my knowledge, none of those 12 had said anything during primary season. You know whose name I don't see on there? Chuck Schumer.
Yep.
There's somebody who is interested in keeping a leadership spot.
It blows me away. New York is his constituency.
Yeah.
9/11 is a real thing in New York.
Dude, I think it's the level of cowardice. Chuck Schumer is that much of a coward. He knows he's now surrounded by these monsters. He's counting on a win in Michigan by enabling a monster in Abdul El-Sayed. So he's keeping his mouth shut because he's a spineless coward. That's why. That's all it is.
So don't be fooled. Like, you're going to be in arguments with your neighbors and friends and whatever as we get closer to the midterms, and this is going to encapsulate, even when you don't want to have political conversations, it's gonna come up, and people are going to say, "Wow, this is a normal Democrat. This isn't a Hasan Piker type. This is a normal. We're dealing with normal. I disagree with all. Nope. They're all the same because they allowed it to happen, and they could have prevented it. They could have done. It's only in the context of a general election. So there's one of two things that are a possibility. Either one, they just don't have any leadership capability whatsoever, and they're trying to surf that wave as best that they can to take advantage of the enthusiasm of anti-Semitism on the left, which is so fucked up. It's unbelievable.
Dude, it really is.
But that's bucket one. Bucket two, they actually believe in all that shit. And think about that. And that's today's Democratic Party. It's certainly today's base primary voter of the Democratic Party. So you got to make extrapolations. I got to tell you, democracy, who you see, whether you like them or not, are a byproduct of everyone that you're living around and who they voted for.
That's right.
And feels very Hasan Piker-y to me on the Democrat side. Do not let anybody get away with the idea that there is such a thing as an Abby Spanberger routine.
Nope. There's no such thing as a moderate Democrat. It's over.
There isn't. They just are what they are. And it leads us to our question of the day. When you like and subscribe to the Ruthless Variety program, we read all of your comments and get back to you the very next episode. Today's question is, do you think they actually care about any of this? Or are they just focused on winning?
Yeah.
You've heard our point of view, but you're interested in your own local experience with all of this, because I imagine you got a lot to amplify of all of that. Like and subscribe. We read them all. Listen, we got more on El-Sayed. We have a great interview at the end of this.
Interview.
I mean, I got to tell you, this show is fantastic in many ways, but Emil Michael,
yes,
who is a Undersecretary at the Department of War, has got a thing that you need to listen to. All of that and more right after this.
America has a powerful advantage: abundant oil and natural gas right here at home. But energy security requires more than energy in the ground. It requires sustained production, resilient supply chains, and importantly, modern infrastructure like pipelines that move energy to the places it's needed, to families, businesses, and communities. Energy security is not just about what we produce. It's about whether we can deliver it safely, reliably, and efficiently when people need it most. That's how America protects consumers, supports our economy, and leads from a position of energy strength. Learn more at EnergySecurityFramework.org. Paid for by the American Petroleum Institute.
So you guys remember, maybe I've said this last week about how El-Sayed has basically got a Plattner thing in that, you know, Plattner for 6 months, it was just like one horrible thing after another. And like, it was just about whether the political environment was paying attention to it. But if you actually were following with granular detail, as we do here on the Ruthless Variety program, about what it is that he was up to, it's like, man, that guy is a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
He's got like a lot of problems. El-Sayed is exactly the same way. You probably saw the Jesse Waters interview. Ill-advised. Like, I don't know what he was hoping to get out of all of that, but whatever he got out of it, it maybe the arrogance or the misplaced self-confidence in thinking you could go in and stand toe-to-toe with somebody, which again, I'm sure animates the left. I'm sure his core constituency was like, yeah, put him in a body bag, you're great. But like, in terms of winning over anybody in the center of the electorate, what a disaster.
Right. Nobody watching that interview on Fox who always watches Jesse is thinking, wow, this El-Sayed guy really makes you think.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it was complete. And then like the one ring that he was willing to draw around like not equivocating on it was like transgender surgeries for minors. It's like, oh, I'm not going to go no, that's sacrosanct. We definitely have to make sure that kids have access to cut their pricks off. Like, I mean, just listening to it, it was like, I can't believe that's actually become a litmus test in the liberal left. Like that, but it's like, that's the one thing that he was.
It's bizarre.
Not really. There was a willingness to try to at least appear, lying through his teeth, but appear reasonable on a whole bunch of things. That one, no. Off limits. Had to talk about Jesse's circumcision to get out of it, right? I mean, it's just like ridiculous. But then you like look back on the clips that campaign generates. Mm-hmm. It's worse. Like, this is the thing that everybody's talking about because it was on national TV and it's, you know, interesting. The clips are unbelievable. So Free Beacon had this thing. Graphic 4, you can pop this bad boy up. This is a Pastor Horace Sheffield and El-Sayed side by side on that. Free Beacon had a story, Pay for Prey. Black pastor paid $82,500 by Abdul El-Sayed will host him at a clergy roundtable as Democrat struggles with black voters. So a chief critique of the whole movement of socialists, the entire election cycle, has been that your traditional black voter is like, no, we don't want any part of that. Mm-hmm. And result after result after result demonstrated that you had affluent, white, overeducated, young idiots
including the primary election that El-Sayed won.
Yeah.
His opponent, Haley Stevens, did much, much better with black voters in Detroit than El-Sayed.
And she is the visual depiction of a white piece of Wonder Bread.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is not anyone who could be considered as a member of the community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? I mean, you've all seen the clip. We played it 100 times on the show. I mean, this is, I mean, she is not somebody that I think your black voter would typically gravitate towards unless they're running against the Democratic Socialist in El-Sayed.
Right. Clearly, there's something about El-Sayed that made those voters say, I'm not so sure about that guy.
And that has happened.
It's probably his policy. It's probably like everything he wants to do to destroy the country.
And so that's the thing is like faced with this problem of
So
not
what do you
being able
do?
to attract black voters, he's like, I guess we got to find a black pastor that I can pay and who can tell people vote for me.
Let me find a totally corrupt pastor willing to take 80 grand for me to make a case to the delegation. So this story by Chuck Ross, call it pay to pray. Michigan Senate candidate Abdul El-Sayed will appear at a, quote, clergy roundtable, unquote, this week with black Detroit pastor to whom the El-Sayed campaign has quietly paid $82,500 for, quote, strategic consulting, unquote, part of a gambit to help the far-left Democrats shore up his anemic support for black voters.
Damn.
I mean, the Wisconsin governor's race was another perfect example of this, in that crazy woman who almost won got beat ultimately because all the black voters were like,
Not so sure about that.
Yeah. And it's why your establishment Democrats moved their primaries out of a whole bunch of states and put it into South Carolina, because the black voter is the moderating voice within the Democratic Party. They're like, if we can do anything structurally to ensure that we don't have Hasan Piker as the next nominee for president from the Democratic Party, it's making South Carolina first amongst the states in a primary. But it's all the same thing. And so this guy's like, well, maybe there's a way around that.
And that's the thing. It's like Chuck Ross brings up a good point in this Free Beacon article where he says, El-Sayed has struggled to woo black voters, many of whom are more socially conservative than the candidate, a close ally of the socialist wing of the Democratic Party, who supports sex change surgeries for minors and allowing biological males in women's sports. Like, the black community is not supportive of that. And so his answer was like, maybe I can pay this guy. And this guy, Pastor Sheffield's like, that's a great idea. Actually, I support that. This line, or this segment is hilarious. He says, Sheffield, who has praised anti-Semitic Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan for preaching, quote, the truth, endorsed El-Sayed weeks after those initial payments. He's like, oh, okay, well, check cleared. I'm endorsing him. In a November 8 interview with El-Sayed on his weekend talk show, The Wake Up Call, Sheffield did not disclose that he was on El-Sayed's payroll in the interview, nor did he disclose the payments during two other fawning interviews he conducted with the candidate on July 25th and August 1. Quote, Lord, help this man win.
Lord.
The wire has arrived. God, help this man.
82 grand, Lord.
Amazing.
82 grand.
Amazing.
I mean, it's just so pathetic.
It really is.
You know? I mean, I
hope it doesn't work.
I hope it doesn't work either. We got to get to some comments from from Tuesday's episode, where we asked the question, what would you do if your kid became a communist?
Yeah.
Recall we had a robust discussion about these Nepo baby children who had all the advantages of life, many of them running for Congress, and then decided they were going to become socialists because that's what you do when you never have to worry about money or anything else. And we asked you for your comments on that question. To do that, we always start with a voice.
Okay, fellas, I'm going to do my best to read this first comment with a straight face,
My God.
because Grubermeister really knows how to make people laugh, okay? Grubermeister writes, invent a time machine and have my past self pull out.
Oh my God.
Grubermeister.
What else can be said?
What more can be said?
More can be said. My past self pull out. Oh, wow. Oh, man.
Comment 2.
Pretty good answer. Comment 2, Smuggles.
Robert Leonard writes, if an adult child of mine were to begin to espouse Marxist ideologies and philosophies, while I do not know if cranially administered percussive kinetics would successfully reorder the scrambled neurons which created their condition, I would vigorously apply this technique to the best of my ability. Good answer.
Well argued, too.
Well our audience is not only funny, they're also quite intelligent.
They are, Robert. Great vocab there. That's fantastic. Comment 3, enjoying the read. I'm picturing those eyelid opening brace things from Clockwork Orange. Remember that movie?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I know the description.
It's you see it from time to time pop up on the internet. People use it. Anyway, it's like forcing your eyelids open. With Thomas Sowell and Victor Davis Hanson videos on a loop.
Hopefully that should fix it. Hopefully
they might learn something.
Yeah, you just get a couple hours a day on that with the old Clockwork Orange
approach.
Eyelid open. I don't know. Maybe it might work. So anyway, that's all of that. We have a terrific interview.
Yes, we do. This is brought to you in partnership with our friends at Build American AI. This is with the Undersecretary of War for Research and Engineering and the Department of War CTO, Emil Michael. He has had a storied career in business, and instead of just making tons of more money, he decided, why don't I, as a patriot, do everything I can to help America and America's military succeed? This interview is incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, let's get to it. Listen, we're more excited about this interview than we've been about many. And I think you're going to understand why here shortly. Emil Michael, he's the Undersecretary of War. By the way, this is a long title.
It's an incredible title.
Do you fit this on the Undersecretary of War for Research and Engineering and Department of War Chief Technology Officer?
2 titles mushed together.
But you as an American ought to be extremely excited and feel great about the fact that somebody like this is interested in doing what it is that they're doing. We've seen it firsthand. You recall the episode that we did up in Pennsylvania where we've got to interact with a whole bunch of people who have just changed the dynamic. Mm-hmm. And one of the people who is entirely responsible for our military, our technology, and the fusion of all the smart brains and manufacturing coming together for a new America is Emil. Thank you so much for joining us.
Kind of you say.
Listen, I think a lot of us who've spent time in government, you get pretty skeptical about Pentagon spending, about, bloated contracts, about your inability to fulfill what it takes to defend our country and our allies around the world. And what we saw here over the last couple of months with your leadership, Secretary Hegseth, and the president, obviously, has entirely changed my viewpoint on that.
It's great to hear.
Tell me, just give me just a top line about all of that.
I got to tell you, I worked on the campaign a bit and the transition, and before I was offered the job, I had no idea. If I rewind to that moment, I was like, what is this going to be like? I was like, am I going to be just walking the halls of the Pentagon, eating bad food and running into bureaucrats?
Yeah.
And because of President Trump and Secretary Hegseth's leadership, they're like, no, every day you're moving out on something. Every single day you push those bureaucrats out of the way. We're in an unrelenting war against the bureaucracy, as Secretary Hegseth says. That's pretty empowering. Yeah. So if you walk into a place like that needs a refresh, like no other organization in the world needs a refresh on what it does, you feel great about getting to that job every day, and I love it. Every single day I wake up loving the job.
So part of your background is you're among the most highly respected business people of your generation, of what you accomplished at Uber, scaling a business that has changed the way all business in America is done. You can do anything in the world that you want. What makes you want to be like, you know what, I'm going to fight the most difficult bureaucracy in the history of humanity at the Pentagon?
I sometimes like to say that like I'm a magnet for pain. It just makes me happy. It's like take body blows and still be able to stand up. I mean, there's something to that, but I tell you, in between startups, I did something called the White House Fellowship in 2009. It was a one Republican in the class, so they're like, you go to Defense Department. Robert Gates is there. Probably
get along with him.
You better get along with him. So I went, and this was in the height of the Cold War and terror, and I was the most tech guy there. And I'm not like an engineer per se, but that's the level they're at. And our soldiers were getting blown up from IEDs in the Middle East. He's like, we got to solve this problem. And I watched him do MRAPs. And do V-shaped holes in the bottom of tanks. And the Secretary of Defense at the time, had to fight his own bureaucracy for months to get something that was going to save lives, and we knew it. And I watched him barrel through that, and I said, someday I'll come back.
Wow.
And I was
really?
And I said, someday I'll come back, and I'll be able to do it right. I'll have more knowledge and more learnings as a leader. And when Secretary Hegseth was selected, I was like, that's the guy. That's the president. That's the time to come back. No matter what it costs me. This is it.
I mean, incredible transition because, I mean, to be honest, you can be playing golf and just like hanging out for the rest of your life. But I mean, the commitment, we've seen this in a number of cases, not only in your department, but across this administration where people, they just want to do for this country what they know they're capable of doing. I didn't know that story about you, but that's a big deal to just sort of throw life on hold and roll back into the Department of War.
Yeah, my wife jokes. She's like, so we're paying them to do this job, right? But there's other parts of it too, which is I'm not a golfer. I don't have hobbies. So it is fulfilling. But also I want to have my kids see me work.
Yeah.
I have a 2-year-old and 6-year-old. I want them to see that this country gave so much to me, and someday they owe it back. Wow. And that ethic is when you have kids, you're like, it just grows in your brain as something you want to give to them.
Yeah,
because shit, I couldn't have done Uber anywhere else.
Yeah, totally.
Where I've done that.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of obligation to make sure the next generation has that kind of opportunity.
Well, there is so much we want to cover, but a question I really want to ask you, I mean, you have obviously devoted so much of your time and talent to breaking down these barriers at the Pentagon, and you've made a tremendous amount of progress here in a very short period of time. I got to imagine a guy like you is thinking like, okay, someday somebody else is going to be at the Pentagon. And maybe that person thinks the way I think, maybe they don't think the way I think. What sort of things are you doing now to ensure that your progress continues after you're gone?
You can never bet on what happens next, except I could bet on how fast I can move today so these things get cemented before I'm gone. Because I can't predict.
You're seeing
tomorrow.
The results that you can't reverse.
And yes, because when people see results, no one wants to reverse good results.
Yeah, right.
But ideas, principles, strategies, meetings, documents, you can reverse all
Come
that.
Come
and go.
Yeah.
So I've been much more focused on accomplishing something every single day. And credit to Secretary Hegseth. He thinks about what we're going to leave in this department, not for our legacy, but for the country. Mm-hmm. And if you think that way, then you're like, I have to wake up every day moving as fast as I can. And the Pentagon's not used to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They're not used to that. So they get used to it after we've been at it for a year and a half, and they'll definitely be used to it after 4 years of this. But that's the only thing in my control. Mm-hmm. And if we're doing good work, why would you go back to a time and materials contract where the contractor is incentivized to spend more time?
The cost plus model, which was it's just unbelievable that was going on.
Right. If I could say, no, it's fixed price and here's a schedule, penalty for be late, a bonus for getting early. And if you don't deliver it, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
Who's going to reverse that if it works?
Totally. And it's not all on spec, right? If it's like, do you produce a product?
Do you produce or not?
Yeah, right. I mean, I love it. So one of the things that we've become infatuated with, and to back off of it, like I remember the first Gulf War, where everybody was sort of blown away at the compendium of like Revolutionary War soldiers pointing guns at each other 10 feet away and shooting to where we were with incredible air superiority and all of the stuff that happened in the early 90s. I think this is like 6x that difference right now in what we're watching in how the defense of our country, but it's harder to explain, right? And I think the fusion of AI to our defense, our national defense, has been so critical and so significant that it's a story that we have to tell at some level.
We have to tell it because the future of warfare is changing, if not already changed. And it's the combination of autonomy and AI.
Yeah.
They're different, but they go together, right? So you could have a drone in Ukraine and you have a joystick. It's autonomous. It's an autonomous system, means it moves. You don't have to have a life in it, a soldier in it. But AI is not quite controlling all of it yet. Although there's a report that the Russians are using AI completely to use to use drones the other day. But right now in Ukraine and Russia, it's a robot-on-robot warfare on the front line. No one sends soldiers to the front line with the muskets 12 feet away. The robots go first, and then they try to advance when it's clear. And that's just the first version of that. Now there's we just had the Saronic Corsair, autonomous boat, saved 2 Apache helicopters in the Strait of Hormuz, and do a maritime attack for the first time. And so you're talking about wow, the most dangerous stuff I could use a machine for that's cheap, mass producible, and if I lose it, it's okay. Instead of sending an airplane with a human in it.
That's the thing. Is when we were at Senator McCormick's defense summit in Pennsylvania, and we actually were talking to Dino from Saronic, and he was like, we had started that company about 1 year ago.
We said first boat in the water was 11 months ago or something like that. It was already in theater.
That the Pentagon is already harnessing builders in this country and the cutting edge of technology and putting it out there to save American service members and to attack the enemy, keeping service members from harm's way is incredible. How difficult has that been to be able to get that going in the Pentagon?
It's been extremely difficult, but I will say that because of what we're seeing in Russia, Ukraine, and because we're seeing the biggest buildup in military history in China, in world history, there's been nothing like the growth of the Chinese military, and because they're starting without the Cold War weapons that we built, they were starting from scratch in the mid 2010s. They started with more attritable, cheaper mass systems. So you combine those two things and you're like, wow, we've got to upgrade and change what we're doing. So the minute we walked in, we launched Drone Dominance. Which was part of the reasons that these kinds of companies like Saronic got in there. And the reason why we're going to deliver hundreds of thousands of drones next year, where I think the whole Biden administration maybe delivered a couple of thousand in 4 years, right? And the supply chain is totally wrecked, and we've had to rebuild it. So we did an $800 million loan the other day for a company that makes drone components. So we have to rely on the Chinese for batteries, for components. So reshoring all that so that builders in our country could build this stuff. So we're not dependent on anyone else. That is going to take years to make that change, but you start out the gate and we're like, these companies come into Pentagon, every door is open to you.
Yeah.
Right.
And we heard that firsthand. I mean, we heard the people you're talking about, the people who supply parts, American domestic parts for the things that the broader stuff that you're working on. We met these people, we talked to them, and it's like this reinvigorated excitement about domestic manufacturing in a partnership that they haven't had, I don't think, in like 50 years.
Yeah. I mean, I believe that, look, I could say something political, but the last administration.
It's really, let's get super political.
I feel like the Pentagon was run by theater kids in the last administration.
Yeah.
They didn't actually, they were policy people, not builders.
Yeah.
Now you have builders, you have business people, you have people who've been in the military, who've seen what it's like to not have what they need.
Yeah.
And you have a secretary, I mean, think about the secretary himself.
Yep.
Right? He saw what the command climate was like, what the rules were like, what the restrictions were like. the combination of people there with President Trump's leadership is like a whole different ballgame than a bunch of theater kids saying, well, should we put out to autonomous?
They could pen a hell of a white paper.
White paper. Right? Let's do 3 months, white paper.
I mean, that's a great example. Is the Biden administration straight up had a meeting which changed the minds of a lot of people in Silicon Valley. Like Mark Andreessen was one of the first out the gate after this meeting, where they basically said to people in Silicon Valley that, no, we don't really believe in AI and we think it should be government controlled. And we will literally, they said straight up, they're willing to shut down math courses taught at colleges in America if they had to. And that's what a lot of people in tech were like, are you serious? Like, they're really going to hobble our country like this? And then a previous guest on this interview series, Sham Sankar, wrote in this book, Mobilize, of one of the things that the Pentagon needed to do, and one of the things that the Pentagon is doing with your leadership there, is sending the demand signal to the private sector of, yes, we do want to build, reindustrialize here in America, create all those jobs. And Sham talks a lot about these companies using AI as part of reindustrialization, like at Hadrian, where they're using AI to build the parts. They're creating all these jobs. They're hiring like people who are working at Home Depot 2 months ago because you've got the basic skill set that AI-enabled creation of parts and tools will reindustrialize this country. And that's a huge game changer, because if the Pentagon's putting that demand signal out there, it incentivizes people to actually build those things in America.
Absolutely. And Chris Power from Hadrian is one of my favorite guys, because he's a British immigrant who's like so pro-America that you've never seen anything like it. Yeah. And he's building parts for ships that were like legacy that no one can build anymore. And like you said, he's taking someone who was making $12 an hour and converting them, paying them 20 with AI assisted, and he's solving huge problems.
Yes. No greater evangelist than the converted.
Yeah,
by the
right.
way.
Right. True that. And yes, so you send that demand signal out. That also has another effect. It catalyzes venture capital money into these companies who now say, oh, someone's listing over there at the Pentagon. They want to buy these things. So I can invest ahead of an order that gets these guys up and rolling and hiring, because I know these people care.
Yeah.
They want these companies to win. They're not like anti-all business people. Don't ever show up to the Pentagon. No, but come here, give me your ideas. Not everyone's going to win. That's the nature of things. But if your product's good and it's the right price at the right time, we'll take it.
How much of it do you think? Oh, I'm sorry, Johnny. Did I cut you off?
Well, I was just going to ask. I mean, you mentioned that the Chinese over the last 10, 20 years have really put a lot of effort into developing their side. You mentioned the Russians using these new technologies on the front lines. I got to think your new approach to how things are done at the Pentagon has put them on notice in a way they haven't been in quite some time.
I think it has, and I hope it has, and I believe it has. Secretary Duffy, who runs Undersecretary of War for Acquisition and Sustainment, another long title. He's my
that's a Pentagon thing.
It's a Pentagon thing. He's sort of my counterpart. He does all the big acquisition programs. He's trying to reform them. And someone asked me the other day, "Hey, are the adversaries on notice?" He's like, "Yeah, when I put a $22 billion order for new Tomahawk missiles, they're on notice." And I would say that's true for AI. That's true for autonomy. We're putting them on notice that we're not going to just sit back and let them out industrialize us, out weaponize us, and out capability us with new technologies. We're going to win all three.
Well, and you're reinvigorating the talent and the entrepreneurship of America, which is it's who we are.
It's who we are,
right?
How we started,
but neglecting that for decades has really kind of put us behind, and now we're in a spot where you're.
I mean, like even in tech, like not too long ago, you had Google be like, "We will do nothing that helps the American warfighter." We refused. They were having protests, like, "We will do nothing that can help any American warfighter." They thought that was a moral stance to take.
Yeah.
In this country.
It's unbelievable.
Which is a wild thing that we ever landed there.
Yeah. I mean, that was some crazy times. I mean,
woke one was crazy, as AOC says.
We can't let her get away with that. It was a good line, but I don't know what woke 3 is going to be. But all that stuff, I was in the Silicon Valley at the time when President Trump was elected the first time, and the mind virus that went around to Google and all these tech companies was like, whoa.
They nearly destroyed the internet.
Yes.
I mean, it was like unbelievable.
It was truly like nothing I've ever seen. We had people at Uber because we agreed to go to a tech meeting with President Trump, chaining themselves to the front of our office. I mean, this was Uber. We're like, we just do cars. We don't do technology and military needs. But that change, and I will credit Google for this. When we brought them back in after the Anthropic fiasco this year, they're like, we're in. Right. They would never make that mistake again. So I do think because of market and recent and because of a lot of people out there, the vibe shift is real. So you can be an Anthropic and do that, but many companies can't give their middle finger to the warfighter.
Can you extrapolate on that little component as much as you can? Sure. Confusing to people who are not in your line of work about why there was this like massive uprising and problem with that situation. Anything you can add?
So I mean, so because this Biden executive order you're talking about, where they tried to really constrain AI so they can control it. They had this rule that said if you use more than X teraflops of compute, you're going to be regulated. So
crazy.
You're like, okay, well then people are just going to use less compute and we're going to lose to China or whatever ridiculous thing they had. But there was the Chosen One company that helped them write that. Executive order.
Really?
Yes.
So they were trying to box everybody
this is
else
the
out.
EA people who are just the effective altruists who are just like a menace, essentially.
Yes. So
and they
dystopia.
didn't bank on somebody like this showing up who actually knows something. They're like, shit. He knows the secret.
But I think there's some so they were anointed as a winner. So where did they deploy first in the U.S. government? The Department of War and the intelligence community.
Interesting.
What do EAs want to do? They want to control the system of government we have. They want to give it to a machine god. So I got the AI portfolio 6 months into the job. I opened, let me read the contracts here. I'm a former lawyer, or I went to law school. I didn't practice law. Let me see what this says. They're like, you can't use AI for battlefield management. I was like, what does that mean? You can't use AI to defend yourself from a missile attack. Like,
what?
You can't use our AI for 25 pages of restrictions.
Imagine just writing that on a page with a straight face.
With a straight face.
Yeah.
And I was like, this can't be right. Maybe someone didn't read this contract.
It's like,
There's a Biden administration. Maybe someone didn't read it.
It's an onion contract.
Yeah. So, and this is why. So I called them in, and I was like, okay, guys, stop. Got to change this. We'll use it lawfully, all lawful purposes. But it's artificial general intelligence. You don't tell me where I could fly a plane to. We decide when we buy a plane from Boeing or Lockheed, and they're like, well, we think these are our moral values. We have our own constitution. It's called the Claude Constitution. Yes. It's like, okay, but it's not corporate values. No, it's our constitution. I was like, what about our constitution?
We got one too.
Turns out there's the constitution and everything else. And then they were so out to lunch that I'd say, okay, all right, help me understand this. So let's say I have a drone swarm coming against a military base. I have 1,000 soldiers sleeping there. And I use AI to discriminate what's a decoy and what not, and to point a laser at shooting it down. They're like, I think we could work on that. I was like, okay, how about a Chinese hypersonic missile going Mach 5 or above? I've got 2 minutes to take it down from space. So there's no guy with a joystick that could do this. And they're like, call me.
Wow.
I was like, well, call you when?
Right.
Just give me a call. We'll work it out at the time.
Did you miss the 2 minute window?
And I had, and they denied this afterwards, but I was like, I have 20 people in the room listening to this, and they're now former soldiers there who are about to lose it.
They're going crazy.
And so this was the way it went. And then Secretary Hegseth is like, okay, Emil, you got to stop messing around. We're single threaded on this one vendor at the time. So I need time to get other vendors in the door. So calls him in. He says, I give you guys a week to work it out. And Thursday before the Friday deadline, we're pulling out. Trump's a dictator. Elon's a Stalin. Sam Altman's Hitler. These guys are trying to destroy the world.
Partisan messaging.
Yes.
It wasn't no component of policy.
I knew we could be unsafe. I was like, well, but the law, we have a democratic system. Laws get passed by Congress. The executive signs them. If I agree to use your system lawfully, what else do you want? They want to create their own law, their own standards.
Well, it's the Constitution.
It's the Constitution.
And then also to your credit, then bringing in like Grok, Gemini, OpenAI, and again, the climate has shifted where tech companies are now, I guess because they see some kind of like leadership and direction, they're happy to get involved. And how much that's, enhanced the capabilities of this Pentagon, where, I remember when we were sitting around the office after Maduro got took in like less time than you can get a pizza from Domino's. Like something has changed.
Yes.
Like there's been a shift in capabilities in this military. We don't know the
ask him
specific
about the discombobulator.
Yeah, we're not going to ask for specifics, but like
we can't.
He's got nothing.
How much is AI being utilized to keep our warfighters safe in theater? And as we've seen, just enhance the targeting capability to make sure we're hitting target and completely minimizing any sort of civilian involvement.
Well, some things I can't talk about. What I can talk about is that we were using AI when I got there. Out of 3.5 million people at the department, something like 70,000 people were using it. So they were in little pockets. Today we're 1.7 million.
Incredible.
Right?
Incredible.
And just since December. And we're still just scratching the surface of how you use AI for warfighting, for intelligence, and for just efficiency enterprise use cases. And so when we start to use these things in a real way where you could see all your own assets, imagine knowing where every one of your planes and ships and radars is, and imagine you can see where all the enemy's assets are and all the intelligence you have in real time. What kind of decisions you could make as a human. So we're not taking the human decision making away. We're just enhancing that human's capability to do things faster. And speed matters in conflict.
Right? Because they can see it.
Because they can see it. They can see everything they need to see. They don't have to look at more screens. They don't have to pull out a 50-page deck.
Free ring binder sitting on the desk.
Exactly. That one's in the folder in the next room, So we're digitizing all that, providing it in real time, and I think you'll see this power grow and the American military grow and grow and grow in its capability.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Can I? You have one more question, but I want to ask Emil the 3 questions.
Go for it. Definitely. I'll be super interested in his answers for these.
So we always ask super interesting people that come on the program 3 questions that we think kind of like winnows down their whole persona. First one is, if you can plan your last meal on Earth, it's going to be your last meal on Earth, what do you choose?
New York pizza.
Is that right? That's it. Yeah. Okay. Any topping specific?
Great New York slices, Ben's Pizza, Westville, and the East. I don't know, Soho or something. I don't know. My wife would walk by there when we lived there, and I was like, every day you go by there, buy me a slice of pizza, no matter what time of day, whether we've eaten dinner or not.
Got it. A plain slice is just like the perfect food.
No, I get it. All right, second question. You've accomplished a lot in your life, and you are now in the give back component where you're doing the Lord's work for all of us and keeping this country safe. But you go through a whole bunch of life experiences where you, if given more time, you look back and like, I was pretty good at that. I'm really interested in that. I just don't have the time to do it. And you think about different pathways that could have led you in jobs or interests. Do you have something like that? I mean, Ted Cruz told us he'd be a power forward in the NBA. That was not going to happen. So
it doesn't have to be realistic.
You're not constrained by what's possible here in this question.
I mean, I grew up right outside the Bronx in New York. I always wanted to own the Yankees.
Major League Baseball, a Yankee owner would have been one of the Steinbrenners aren't giving it up.
I know. But imagine, the thing I love about the Yankees, besides like being a Yankee fan, is like they spent money to make money. They always leaned forward on what was possible.
Oh yeah.
And that was the team. They're like, but they spend all this money and win players. Like, how do you think you win games and championships? That's like how you do it. Right. So I kind of always dreamed that someday I'd go. But maybe with Josh Kushner buying the Lakers, I got a shot.
Oh yeah. There you go. You got an in.
Maybe.
Sports management. I absolutely love it. All right. So the last question is a little esoteric, and I have to kind of give it an explanation. We're of the view that almost every successful person on this planet is motivated primarily by one of 2 things. thrill of victory or agony of defeat. And it is not that anybody doesn't love to win or anybody likes to lose. It's what takes you back to the point where you have to rebuild and energizes you to take that next step. You know, what gets you back to the gym if you're an athlete? What does it? And like Jordan is the prototypical agony of defeat guy, right? Where he invented slights on himself in order to take his game to the next level. And there's a lot of different thrill of victory folks who just think that they can accomplish something, so they want to go do it, and that's their primary motivation. On that scale, where do you think you find yourself?
I'm definitely on the agony of defeat side.
I'm not surprised.
Remember pain magnets? You know, how much pain can you take? And I think it's, you know, it's just the I guess you call it fear of losing, but it's just.
You're not going to beat me.
It's just not going to be. I'm not going to be beaten.
Yeah.
And I have something where I used to do big deals at Uber and so on. I get depressed afterwards. I call it post-deal depression. So that I would actually be bummed after I won something. Because I was like, that's over. All my adrenaline was pumping and then it just stopped.
Dude, that's
amazing. Dude, I think that's the best description of it.
It is. That's it. That's totally it. We're primarily agony guys here, but it's a 50-50 split on guests that we have in and what motivates them. That is fascinating.
Well, you brought up Uber. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up your old friend and coworker, Travis from Uber, has recently come out of stealth with Atoms, a company that's got everyone excited. And they're doing big things like mining and critical hard tech work. Do you feel that's like indicative of where this country's going, where like you're seeing the tech industry wanting to do the hard work and the job creation here in America to do the hard things?
I do. I think there is a huge resurgence for a couple of reasons. Number one, software is getting easier to write. So you had the internet era, the iPhone era, and now I think the hard tech era. In the iPhone era, you just write a cool app and you had this virality that you can get, and you were searching. So you were looking for eyeballs. The reason why Uber was unique in that era, because we married the real world, cars, atoms, to bits, like the app on your iPhone. But there were there was Airbnb, there was Uber, very few. And then we went into a pure software era. Now, because we're reindustrializing, because we're building things and redomesticating a lot of things that we outsourced for decades, people are getting into hard tech. You're having big brains go into the hard tech things like Travis, and it's durable value because, man, it's so hard to do both pretty well that that's a moat unto its own. Software has no moat anymore. Right? You could use code, one of these code tools to write a new app literally tomorrow. You could recreate the Uber app in some ways, but you can't recreate like a mine. You own the mine. Now you have to how do I efficiently get it out? But you own that asset. So it's a different time of economic history I think we're in.
It's exciting.
I mean, if that doesn't excite you, I don't know what does. I mean, this has changed my entire outlook. I'm absolutely convinced the best days of America are ahead of us because of this stuff and the good work that you're doing. Emil, Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Great to be here.
You know, guys, I think you would agree with this, that a lot of the success of our nation over the last 250 years is directly attributable to people who put their personal ambitions aside to actually help make the country better. And this guy, Emil, is the perfect example of that. I mean, this is a guy who you like you said, and obviously listening to him, the guy is brilliant. He is well connected all over the place. He could be making $1 billion, but instead of doing that right now, he is working to make sure that our Pentagon is right-sized for the future and our adversaries in China and Russia and everywhere else so that we can continue on for another 250 years.
That's right.
I think we are so fortunate as a country to have guys like him who are willing to step up at our time of need. And man, I'm just so grateful that we had a chance to talk to him.
So impressive.
Really well said. I care about this a lot now.
Yep.
And I really didn't 9 months ago because I think I was, like many of us, extremely skeptical about the Pentagon's ability to reinvent itself. I mean, all the time I spent in government, you were like, oh, well, there's, anytime you appropriate money or whatever to the Pentagon, it's like, well, I'm sure that, all the accounting firms and whatever are going to have a terrific time spending this money. And you never really thought that it was going to go. And we'd have these weird arguments. Remember the argument against helping Ukraine against Russia was like, we're depleting the stockpiles that have been part of the American munitions stockpile since the 1970s. We're depleting the 1970s munitions. That's telling on yourself. What you're saying when you say we can't help or do something because we're depleting things that we built 45 years ago, you're telling the rest of the world they ain't got it. They can't compete in this world. And going to that McCormick event and talking to guys like Emil, it has totally reinvigorated my view of America and what we can accomplish, defend ourselves, do what's right in the world, and also enable the best and brightest amongst us to do patriotic things for our country.
Right.
Which I like the cynicism that you grow in this town over time, like wears on you a little bit and you don't even recognize the things that you've sort of lost. But all of a sudden when that goes away and you can see things that like Emil was talking about, you're like, holy shit, like we are the best country in the world.
That's right.
Right.
And it's a big deal. Like that's why we keep talking about it. We hope that you guys understand what we have seen with our eyes, and we're doing a good enough job at trying to explain how significant this is, because it is not a conveyor belt or an assembly line making T-shirts or mugs. Like we're talking about stuff that will ensure that there is not American servicemen who lose their lives in battle needlessly. Like that, this is saving lives. It's keeping you safe. It's making sure that your Sunday afternoon is fear-free and you can go out and spend all the time you want with your kids. That's what these people are working on.
Yeah.
It's a big effing deal.
It's huge.
It is. It is. And, we started the show with Hasan Piker, and, he goes online every single day talking about how terrible everybody in America is. And then we finish the show with a guy like Emil Michael, who is showing everybody what patriotism and call to service and making this country a better place is all about.
That's right.
So I feel like we sort of ended on a pretty high note.
No, it's well said. Well said. All right, remember our question of the day. When you like and subscribe to the Ruthless Friday program, we read absolutely all of them. Get back to the very next episode. This one's going to be Fun Time Friday, so kind of make it funny if you want to get read on the program. Do you think they actually care, they being Democrats? Do you think they actually care about anything that Hasan Piker or anti-Semitism is? Or do they just care about winning? You heard our point of view. Interested to hear yours, and we'll get back to you on Fun Time Friday. We're rolling this week, buddy. I have imagined that this one is going to be a good Fun Time Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you all for joining us. With that, fellas, I think we did it.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode. Gentlemen, thank you so much, Emil Michael, and thank you to our listeners. Remember, if you have not yet, go to the YouTube and hit that subscribe because it's more fun in video. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you Friday. Stay ruthless.